Here we are.
Are
we opening up a new episode right now?
Yeah.
Is this a new episode?
Dude, so it's wild to think about, right? Like this is part 2.
God, I've seen too much of you today, Derek.
I know.
It's okay.
You know what?
I know. I changed shirts for you.
And just, we might talk about some horror movies later, but the sequels can be better than the original.
Can be better.
It's possible.
I think
It
that
depends on the franchise.
And we've all had a few beers, so this could go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is very, it's critical that we get this right, guys.
And I think we will.
I'm not overly worried about it, though. I'm not overly worried about it. So, guys, welcome to Volume 2.
Deux,
Deux,
trois, quatre,
deux,
cinq, six,
with Able Baker,
1, 2, 3, 4.
founder, owner, Manos, still here, still drinking beer, still waiting on the fear. Oh, that was a sweet rhyme.
That was really good.
Derek, why don't you just roll the intro?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, my name's Stu Hawk, and this is my podcast about all the weird, crazy, spooky things that scare me and my guests, and the one thing that helps us forget all about them. Ladies and gentlemen, beer freaks. Volume 2. Does anyone here speak French?
Nope.
No.
I could read. I took French, German, and Spanish in junior high. All of them.
Okay, I'm going to say volume dos then, because I took Spanish.
Yeah.
I feel good about Spanish.
Yeah, dos. Yeah.
German? Anybody?
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Vi. So,
Yeah.
But what was that?
And 1, 2, 3, 4,
Deux.
5, 6,
Deux?
Oui.
Okay.
9, 10.
Well, here we are. Volume 2.
Volume 2.
For all of those English speakers out there.
And as you
We're
can
still
tell
here.
by the music, this is the scary part of the first part.
Yes. We definitely delayed our horror part of the show because, well, frankly, we just had a good conversation.
We did.
We enjoyed our conversation with you, Manos, and we drank quite a bit of beer.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Right? You brought some. Well, we bought some of your beer at Corey's. Shout out to Corey's.
Yep.
Shout out to buying my beer.
Yeah.
Shout out to. So, and by the way, well, this episode will air a little bit later, but we got the pineapple Kapow, which is a sour, but it's a nice sort of like entry level may not be the right word.
No,
but,
I'm not offended by that word at all.
okay.
It's very good.
But it's for someone who's not a huge sour fan. I was a big fan,
And those with heartburn.
and those
Perfect.
with heartburn.
It's
You know
a
what?
real thing,
You know what?
Stu.
Okay,
it's
fair
a
enough.
real thing.
We also had the Chris Kael Impale'd Ale,
Yep.
which went down crazy smooth. But my favorite from
Yes.
volume uno was 100% the double duck. Was it double dead
Double dead duck.
Double dead duck.
Yeah, we just call it 3D for short.
3D.
Ooh, I like that.
West Coast style double IPA.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's so good.
We're
If you
going down
like
there.
West Coast style IPAs, that's the guy to get.
Mm-hmm.
So, volume 2.
If you didn't hear volume 1,
If you
you should
didn't-
probably go back and listen.
You should probably go back one
Yeah,
episode.
but
But if
we'll
you
gi-
didn't, Manos, can you just give us a quick
We'll give
intro
you a
of who you
reminder.
are again?
My name's Manos. I'm the one of the founders, co-founders, and owners of Able Baker Brewing here in fantastic and fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada.
Boom.
That's basically it.
Boom.
And that was a much better intro. I'm way too long-winded sometimes, especially after a few drinks.
No, that's it. Short,
So-
concise.
Here we are.
Yeah.
God, I'm still thinking about that double dead duck. God damn it.
You
Okay,
love that,
forget
man.
it. Forget it.
I
Forget
love
it.
seeing
I'm off
Stu.
it
I love seeing Stu
because-
have these West Coast IPAs because he's like he's like a little kid in a freaking like the toy aisle at
You know what? Though?
Walmart. You know?
That's what's cool. A lot of people make the joke about how craft beer turned their drinking problem into a hobby.
Yeah.
But there's some truth in that because that's part of being a craft beer enthusiast, man. And I still do it. Like I said, I get excited
Yep.
about having things that I've really wanted to try.
Yeah.
Or if I go to a brewery and I get shocked by like, oh, I wasn't expecting them to have a fantastic saison, and I get one.
Yep.
I mean, I'll turn to whoever I'm with and just sit there and just just soak in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the great things about craft beer. And, whiskey enthusiasts can do it too. Or if you're a movie fan and you turn on a movie and you just bask in the first 10 minutes of a great movie like Aliens, the first 10 minutes, you're like, oh, so those things are cool, but that's why craft beer is here. So that sort of enthusiasm, man, that's why I've got a business, and that's why craft beer is so important to communities, because people react to it that way. It's super cool to see.
You're welcome.
Derek.
I'm
Good
kidding.
call.
I'm kidding. But
call.
we do have to get we do got to get into the fear here, because
Is it that time?
it's definitely that time.
Is it that time?
Yeah.
Because I know we also have one more beer to get to, but
We do.
maybe we should get
We're
to
gonna
the beer.
save it.
Otherwise, we may never get to the
Ooh,
fear.
yeah. You know what? It's up to you guys. Do you want to talk about your fear while you're having a little drink?
There's some good. There's a great bottle in there, man. We can crack it.
We got to do it. Okay.
And I can talk about the fear while you open it up if you want to.
Boom. Let's do it.
All right. So just tell you what the fear is.
Yes.
So
let's dig into this.
Believe it or not, I have a couple, and I tried to settle on the one that I thought was probably affected me the most, and it's needles and stitches. Like I cannot stand to get stitched. And unfortunately in my life, I've had the cause to have it happen a lot, and on my face multiple times. And probably my biggest fear is needles coming at my face to stitch me. That scares me.
It seems like a very legitimate fear.
Yeah.
A very legitimate fear. And you know what? To be totally honest, I have never gotten stitches in my life. Knock on wood.
Tusu deskedematicus.
What was that?
That was the Greek version of knock on wood.
What
I just took the evil eye off you.
what does that mean?
Just tusu. It means take away the evil eye. So you basically
okay.
just cursed yourself, and I just removed it for you.
I very much appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So give us a story about a needle going at your eye, because I can't even, I've tried to give blood before. I used to be okay at it. Now I pass out if I watch the needle go in. So I hear you. But when did you have a needle going at your face?
So probably my biggest panic moment ever in my life is I won't really go into the incident, but I needed to go to the hospital to get somewhere between 12 and 16 stitches in my face, and was not happy about it already.
Okay.
And
is there a reason you won't tell us about the incident?
No, just
We don't need to go into that?
We don't need to go into the incident. But I had a good friend of mine, and if Joanna's out there and she's listening, that was a nurse, had been a triage nurse in the military, and knew I was scared to death of needles. So already knew I was going to be in kind of panic mode about it. But I wound up having to go to the hospital, and I can just remember being upset and watching this nurse in the emergency basically come at me with a meat hook, which is what it looks like when they're going to stitch your eyebrow. They have this like meat hook, like what's it called? An abattoir is what it looks like. And it was huge, and it's coming at my eyeball.
Yeah.
And I literally just lost it. Like, not really panic attack, but was very upset.
I mean, understandably.
Yeah. And got a little anxious and wanted to get up and move around, to the point where no one would take care of me. So the doctor came into the thing, and he's like, "You might be the biggest jerk of a patient I've ever had in my life." He goes, "Legally, I can't ask you to leave, but we need to get this done. So how's this going to happen?" And I was like, "I don't know. Someone's got to stop coming at me with this giant meat hook in my face like I'm having a panic attack. I can't deal with it." And another thing about me is I don't like medication. So I refused any kind of anesthesia. So I wasn't going to get anesthesiaed up. I wasn't going to take a pill to calm me down. I wasn't going to do any of that. The state that I was in was just the state that I was going to be in. So kind of put them in a bad situation. And basically it got to the point where now there's like security guards, and there's the doctor, and there's this nurse with this giant abattoir hook coming at my face, where the physician finally had to just be like, "Look, I want to put 3 stitches in your face, just enough to hold your eyeball together. And then you're out of here.
And then just leave.
And then just leave.
Just get out of here.
And I remember the maybe 20 or 30 seconds it took her to put these 3 stitches into my eyebrow might have been the most panic-ridden 30 seconds of my life. Like, I really did not like it.
You really could have used a beer at that point.
I'd had some beers before. So
that was the incident. That was the incident.
Yeah, it was but yeah, it's just and so when you asked me about my fear, I was like, okay, if I draw a blank mind, there may be other things that I'm afraid of, or in the long run, I'm sure everybody's afraid of death and things like that.
Yeah.
But what would be my kind of like my most panic ridden moment where I was really afraid of something?
Yeah.
And it was probably that 20 or 30 seconds when she was stitching up my eye.
Ugh.
And ever since then, I've had other stitches in my face. I had a bunch in my chin. I had some in my cheek. I've had them on my elbow. But anytime I can see a needle coming at me and I know it's to put a stitch in my body, I get fearful.
So if you look away, you can sort of avert the issue.
But who's going to look away when someone's sticking a needle in your body? Like I'm not that guy.
Dude, there's a movie, I forget what movie it is, but there's a movie where they stick a needle in someone's actual eye.
Ugh.
That freaked.
Hostile.
Yeah.
Was it Hostile?
Is it hostile?
Well, they take a drill bit, like if you're screwing in a nail, and they drill it into the eye.
Yeah, that would do it for me.
So is that worse? Is it a drill bit or a needle? Is it something about the small thing or the like?
No, it's not even really. I think it's about the needle, really, because it bothers me in anywhere where I would get stitches. But like I said, if I can visually see it and I know what's coming at me, it freaks me out. And we talked about this a little bit off air, and that's why, like on the horror movie side, like even a movie that might not be that scary, because Jeepers Creepers is not a good movie.
No, it's
it's enjoyable though. I will say,
I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just not. It's just not.
Justin Long at his
he's
best.
good. He's good.
And I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I don't think it's scary.
Yeah.
But the scary part of it is the stitched face mask that he wears, and the Jeepers Creepers thing. Same thing. And even something stupid, like I said, in The Matrix, where Keanu Reeves turns around that one time and it looks like his mouth is stitched shut. That freaks me out. I don't like to see that. To me, that's the scariest part of all those movies.
Oh, yeah.
And it's related to stitches.
So you can watch one where they like stitch like 3 people together. What was that called?
Oh, Human Centipede.
Human Centipede. Yeah, man. Could you imagine?
Mouth to
Mouth to, Woo.
We don't need to dive too deep.
We don't need to dive deep into that one.
The first Human Centipede is not a bad movie. The second one and third one are terrible.
I didn't
The
even
South
know there
Park one
were a
was-
second and
The
third.
the South Park version was really good.
It was hilarious.
But but like I said, on the fear side, that's kind of it. And I don't know where it comes from. I didn't have like a traumatic childhood experience where I got like bad stitches. I didn't really notice it fully until I was probably like 24 or 25 years old, and I started to need stitches quite often.
That's
Maybe that's worth analyzing, but we won't dive into that side tonight.
But no, that's really curious, because a lot of people on the show, they don't like necessarily have that moment that they're afraid of it, right? Like, I wonder where that comes from.
Like, movies and TV shows often try to give a very clear depiction of where things, the etymology of an issue, right?
Yep.
And the reality is, human existence is just not that clean. It's much messier.
It's very complicated.
The where that comes from could be any various number of reasons, or it could just be the fact that a fucking ducking, quack, the very fact that a needle is coming right towards your eyeball. That is scary in and of itself. That doesn't need an origin story. That's weird.
That's LASIK.
That's why I've never had it. Like, for real.
Yeah.
Like the people who I've had tons of friends who've had LASIK, and they're always like, "Oh, would you ever get it?" And I'm like, I just don't. They're lasering off portion of your eyeball, man. I got no desire for that. I'm literally probably the guy, like we talked about this off air too, where I could lose a pinky, and I would probably look down and go, okay, my pinky's missing. But if a laser's coming at my eyeball, like, they better have me strapped in. Like, I better, because like I said, I'm not going to knock myself out or whatever. I don't do that. I'm going to be difficult to handle.
Yeah.
And
I don't blame you,
Clockwork
dude.
Orange, where they held his eye open or something like that.
Dude.
Yep.
I don't know.
I always said if I did LASIK, they need to do one eye first.
do you
let
make
it
sure
heal.
make sure it's okay?
And then I'll do the other. Because if you mess this one up, dude, my eyesight is, I have a negative 8.5. To a lot of people, that doesn't mean a lot of
I don't know
stuff.
what that means.
But it's not good.
Okay.
It is. If I don't have my contacts in or glasses on, I will not be able to function. I can't see anything. It's just a blur.
Really?
That's why the
it's
shirtless
awful.
picture's so large, so you can see it with his,
he's gotta
without the
have-
contacts.
And I'm very nearsighted, so I hold that picture like this,
Right
a
up to
lot.
your up to your face.
Yes.
All right. So if I stay just far enough away from you, you'll have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If you have no contacts in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But I get you though. It'd be scary, dude. It'd be
It just
scary.
It always bothered me. So I got a question for you guys then.
Yeah.
So if you've done like 40 of these, And this is just going back to the nature of human experience. You always think that you're so unique or that your life is so special that you couldn't possibly have the same plane of existence of anyone else.
Totally.
I bet of your 40 things, there's been a lot of overlapping fears. Like people are afraid of kind of the same thing. Is that kind of fair to say, or am I wrong?
Surprising. It's surprising.
Yeah.
You're actually a little bit off. And I would have thought the same thing.
Yeah.
We haven't really had many overlapping, ideas. It's ranged the gambit.
Yep.
People who are afraid of nuclear war, scorpions, the dark.
That's what I would have expected to get a lot of. Afraid of the dark, or
that was me. I was afraid of the dark, and then
it was before he was a co-host. He was
sleep paralysis. Those are mine.
Go back to Derek's episode if you haven't listened to it, if you're interested, because it actually is terrifying understanding what sleep paralysis is.
I'm a 36-year-old man that cannot sleep by myself in the dark. So
yeah.
See, that's a real fear, but on the broader thing, like just saying, afraid of the dark, you would expect that. My guess just would be, that if you had 40 people on, that like 7 or 8 of them, their fear would have been the dark.
When I started the show and then Derek joined, I thought that what we were going to get a lot of is like, I'm afraid of ghosts or vampires or, weird stuff. But we've gotten from the very pragmatic, again, like scorpions. Yeah, you get stung by a scorpion in Las Vegas, that's going to suck.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good. We've gotten heights, but specifically heights when their feet were dangling.
Bob Barnes. Yep.
Bob Barnes.
Yep.
We've had more, self-actualization stuff. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to achieve my life's purpose. Or
see, that would be another one I expect a lot too, like unobtained goals or not meeting this deadline for how I thought my life was going to go.
That's probably the most common, at least from a theme standpoint, is like sort of around like, I'm not doing the right things. Like Charlie's was, I'm going to F up.
Yep.
We had Brian Chapin was I'm not going to achieve my life's goals.
Yep.
We had someone who thought that they might go to hell because they're not doing the right things.
Yeah. See, that would be another one now that you mention it that I would expect because I'm very religious.
Yeah.
And I'm also I like to read, so I love Dante's Inferno and things like that.
Yeah.
So if you have that kind of my mom's Southern Baptist, so if you have that kind of fire and brimstone backbone. Man, the fear of going to hell, that's probably a pretty strong thing in a lot of people. Now, so that this is the thing where if you took this exact same show, and this is not to say that there's anything wrong with Nevada or California, but there's definitely a less overtly religious culture here. If you took the same show and you took it to my hometown in North Carolina, you'd get the fear of hell a lot more than you would out here.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Or the fear of damnation or disappointing my parents or whatever, all those things tie in together.
But culturally, isn't that interesting?
That's a good point you make. Yeah.
It would be cool.
Really cool.
It would be cool to, at some point, once we actually get Pepto as a sponsor, to take this show on the road and see how those fears change
culturally
from region to region.
I think you would see it a lot. I think that we're in a state that's connected to a state where the fears are vastly different than what you would get regionalized. Especially like I said, as the religious continuity of an area amps up. And I think in the South, like that's something where if you've never been around people who are devoutly fire and brimstone religious, like that's driven in you too from a young age to be afraid of it because they want you to be afraid because it's supposed to breed morality and it's supposed to give you these correct structural points in your life to abide by. And the fear of damnation is a real thing, which I don't think you really get out here.
No, not nearly as much.
No,
that's for sure.
It's such a melting pot. You know what I mean? Which is why I think maybe we don't have that overlap. It's because everybody's so different.
Well, that's true because the people that we've had on the show, we have Las Vegas people who grew up here. We have Californians, we have Midwesterners, we have Northeasters, we have, Southerns.
We're the ninth island.
Yeah. Oh. Have we had any international folks on the show?
We haven't. Emma, kind of.
Yeah.
Emma grew up in another country.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's it.
But it's interesting to say that there's not a lot of overlap. That's really cool. Because I would expect that you guys would be like, oh, it's another person afraid of a monster in their closet.
Yes.
Or, another person that's afraid of clowns.
After we got to episode 10, I was like, all right, I'm sure we're going to start seeing some repeats. And we haven't.
Right.
But that's been fascinating.
That's cool.
And actually, like Derek and I, one of the coolest parts about what we've seen is a lot of the people who talk about the more, call it self-actualization stuff. The big thing that's the takeaway from the episode is no matter what your politics, no matter what your beliefs are, everybody actually likes one another if you get to know each other on a personal level.
Yep.
Like this show, we don't get into politics and stuff like that for a good reason. We don't need, getting into that whole thing. But like we know sometimes, obviously, you can kind of tell eventually like what someone's politics are, what their beliefs or background are. But the reality is, like, look, you share a beer, you share a good conversation, you could try to get to know someone. Yep. There's a pretty darn good chance you're going to like that person.
Well, and that's the thing is like there may not be an overlap in a fear, but there is an overlap in that I think with every fear we've heard, I think maybe we're all a little afraid in a way of every fear that we've heard. It may not be like a big fear, like bugs. Like I'm not a big fan of bugs.
I'm afraid of bugs.
But is it like my biggest fear? No. But am I afraid? Yeah, a little bit. Like some bugs, I don't like them. So I think we all have this, like every fear we've heard, I think we all have it underlying in some way.
Yeah.
So overlapping
shared
in that way, exactly.
And
shared experience,
and that's a good point. And that's why I thought maybe you'd see a little bit more. But that's cool. And if no one has said stitches, then I'm down because I thought for sure someone else would say that. And like I showed you the text message earlier, my friend that's the nurse in California, when she actually texted me to wish me happy birthday in her happy birthday text message, it was like, "You're still afraid of needles," and I was like, as a matter of fact, I'm about to do a show about this in about 2 weeks. So
now, granted, we do charge $100 an hour for the therapy session. So.
Perfect. That's it.
Yeah, we're not licensed.
Trust me.
Any stretch.
Trust me, I need some therapy, and needles will be way down on the list of stuff that my therapist approaches me about.
Oh, speaking of needles, here.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be like point number 92. She's not worried about the needles.
Oh yeah.
Well, dude, let's dive a little bit more into the fear.
Absolutely.
We'll jump into this beer before it gets cold.
Yeah, because I also want to talk some scary movies with you.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we've talked about the fears, and we definitely need to talk about the beer. But why don't we intertwine some of our favorite scary movies? Because I know you're a horror aficionado.
Hey, I'm a junkie,
dude.
I love it.
Okay, so let's first. What's your favorite horror film?
Ooh, wow! So I probably should have been prepared for this because I knew we were going to talk about of all time.
Right off the mind. Quick. Favorite horror movie.
Jeez,
way too slow.
I know it's just too hard. And part of it depends on what you call a horror movie. So I'm going to go off board here, because I think Aliens 2 is a horror movie, and if Aliens 2 is a horror movie, that's my favorite horror movie of all time.
Look, man, I would group a lot of sci-fi into horror, so I'm fine. I'm fine with that answer, and
but
it is.
If you want to go, so I'll break it up a little bit. If you want to go classic camp, my favorite classic campy horror movie is Sleepaway Camp. Not even close. Cool. If you want to go like traditional horror, it's hard not to like something from one of the bigger series, but I also think that The Shining is a great horror movie.
Beautiful.
And if that's not the greatest horror movie ever made, it's up close. But I also think that it's a great book. The movie's not that great, but the content of it's so good that I think The Dead Zone's a great movie too.
Ooh, The Dead Zone. Okay.
I've never seen that. I need to check that out. I've never seen that one.
So super cool. So man, I have so much to say because you just said a lot in a very condensed space. Aliens
we need to cut
2
Stu off now.
No, I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you because I'm very So Aliens 2, yes. What did you think about Sphere?
Ooh.
It's okay.
Yeah, just okay.
It's okay.
Dude, when he comes out and his eyes are gone and like they're all black and he's come back from the black hole, the Event Horizon.
Event Horizon was a good one.
Sorry. Dude, okay, I totally got it. Not Sphere, Event Horizon.
Yeah, Event Horizon was awesome.
It's a great movie.
That's
a great movie. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's just like when I see that movie, anytime I see a movie like that, Event Horizon, there's a few other ones, I just think Aliens.
Yeah.
And then when I think Aliens, I think well, Aliens 2 is
it's just so good. Why
it's
even
the best movie in that series.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I get the blending of sci-fi horror, but to me, Aliens 2 is a horror movie.
Yeah.
And if it's a horror movie, it's a really, really, really good horror movie.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like some people will break off zombie movies. Oh, it's not really horror. It's zombie. It's different. And then you can say, okay, well, what's the best zombie movie ever made? But is that if you think that's the best zombie movie ever made, it's got to be in your list of top 20 horror movies. It just has to be.
Yeah.
So the one category
28 Days Later, by the way,
is a great movie
for sure.
Yeah.
If we're breaking down zombies,
What's the one with Brad Pitt? Not good.
Generation Z.
Yeah,
Not good.
World War Z.
World War Z.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was good. But
No,
it was,
it's not good.
and I also what I really really like is I love 80s camp. Anything from the 80s that's camp.
Oh, dude, yeah.
All the trauma
Killer
stuff.
Clowns.
Killer
from outer
Clowns.
space.
What'd you think
The
of
Toxic Avenger.
What'd you think of American Horror Story? Do you watch that at all?
I do.
And they did the 80s, like the whole
1984.
1984. That was pretty good.
So I like American Horror Story, and anyone who knows me knows this. I worship Stevie Nicks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
So-
yeah, she was there.
Anything the White Witch is ever in,
Yeah.
I'm a fan of. It doesn't matter what it is.
Cool.
I used to run a bar, and I kept a placard behind the bar that said, "Bartender may refuse to work while Stevie Nicks is singing." So if the jukebox or the radio or whatever is playing anything from Stevie Nicks, solo work, collaboration work, Fleetwood Mac, if it came on, I would not serve. And I would just mouth the words to Stevie Nicks and walk around and enjoy it.
Dude,
Awesome, dude.
I just got to say, okay, so you like hard rock, you like Five Finger Death Punch,
Yep.
and then you throw Stevie Nicks into the mix.
I love Stevie Nicks.
That's
Stevie Nicks is
awesome,
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a little bit of everything. Okay, back to horror.
Yes.
All right. So the 80s campiness, okay, so I'll raise you with Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I love it.
I think
Fantastic movie.
I think that wins.
Fantastic movie.
But
here's why, and I'm going to get hate mail for this probably. Here's why Sleepaway Camp is the greatest campy horror movie of all time.
Okay.
That's
So-
got to be your favorite movie, I think,
it's,
of all time.
It's not
right?
my favorite, but it's just every single movie made since Sleepaway Camp was put out
Yeah.
that has a surprise shocker ending.
Yeah.
And this is not just horror. This means all the M. Night Shyamalan stuff, Sixth Sense,
He does it.
every
amazing.
sci-fi where the alien's not an alien or the robot's not a robot. Like everything that's been done since Sleepaway Camp, and I'm not going to ruin the movie for anybody who's never seen it, but every one of those endings where it's all crammed in and funneled to the end and it's like boom, big reveal, should write the people from Sleepaway Camp a thank you letter because they started it all.
Really?
It had never been done before. It was the big reveal.
Yeah.
Everyone owes them a debt of gratitude. Now, was it done immaculately? No. It's horrible claymation or whatever it is. It's a bad scene. But the notion of it, I just sat through 97 minutes of movie and everything that I just did was worth only the last 30 seconds of this movie is genius.
Yeah.
That's
So we can't give anything away because I'm guaranteeing 95% of our audience has never seen or maybe even heard of this movie.
I've never seen it.
We won't give anything away. Go watch it.
Yes. And you get
It's probably free on Prime.
It's got to be somewhere.
And you get all the other 80s cheesiness too.
Yeah.
Half-cut shirts on
Oh,
the
yeah,
guys.
sure. Yeah.
Really short shorts, big hair,
Yeah.
really terrible
The
dialogue.
zooming in of the camera
For the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's super machismo through most of it.
Yep.
Love it.
It's just so 80s.
Cool.
But, and like I said, the end of it is just, and that's what makes it, in my mind, the greatest campy horror movie of all time, and maybe the
Okay.
greatest horror movie of the 80s.
Okay. So we've attacked the horror sci-fi. We've attacked the campiness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said something that I'm just 100% immediately going to agree with you on. Shining is my favorite horror film of all time.
Amazing.
But you mentioned two in the traditional horror film genre, and they're both Stephen King's.
Yep.
Are you a Stephen King fan?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, yes.
Yeah. How can you not be?
Yeah.
I mean, a guy's got it. He's got it dialed in.
Dude, the guy is just every year pushing out. I mean, I'm not saying every single book he's writing is a winner.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, the Dark Tower series is still like, it still holds my heart. The Stand, which just they did the series again on CBS All Access.
The Stand is fantastic, and obviously for someone who owns a brewery that's atomic imagery themed, I have to love
with
The Stand.
Vegas.
You know, dude, if I could put on a cowboy hat and ride a nuclear bomb into Las Vegas, you know what I mean?
They just filmed some of the TV show here, like 3 months ago, I think.
Yep.
At literally just down the road from us.
I mean, I think a little bit earlier because it came out like 2 months ago.
Okay.
But
a little bit,
it was cool. I mean, I don't know. I love the book. I actually love the 90s miniseries.
I do too. It's better than the remake.
It was for sure. The Randall, like, I love, what's the Norwegian actor's name that played Flag this time?
It's
like that famous guy. He's like the whole famous family. And his brother plays the clown from It.
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. He just didn't do it for me for Randall Flagg.
Nope.
But the 90s guy, I don't know what his name was.
But he did a great job.
He was so good.
He looked like the guy who played Randall Flagg in the original The Stand had a striking similarity to the bad guy from Roadhouse, which made me like him even more.
Jesus. Yeah.
They had the
Swayze,
same,
rest in peace, man.
They had the same haircut. They had the same kind of idea. But every time I saw that old miniseries of The Stand, I just always would think I'd like, is that the bad guy from Roadhouse? If they're not the same person, they're lost cousins.
Dude, I was looking so hard for The Stand on like DVD or obviously I wanted to stream it from the 90s miniseries.
The original.
You can't find it, man.
Yeah.
I had to eventually buy it on eBay as a DVD series.
I had to do that with Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Opera. Like I have speaking of horror movies.
That sounds like a horror movie.
It's amazing. And it's really
horrible movie.
It used to be really, really hard to find, and I've had a copy of it since probably the mid '80s that I just love. That I actually found in a book. I bought a book at a bookstore and was flipping through the book, and there was a disc.
No
that
way.
had
in there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Dude.
Wow. How funny is that?
Okay, so tell me. So pick Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
All right, so I don't want to get weird.
I know it's
All
tough.
right, so I'm going to
get weird. That's what this show's about.
All right,
man.
so I'm going to pick Friday the 13th, but not for the reason that you think.
Okay.
And I don't want this to come off strange, but a lot of classic horror movies are built around the notion of young people being scared and being freaked out. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them contained, nude scenes.
Oh, that's how they sell the tickets.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the best nude scenes in any movie ever is in the original Friday the 13th. So I would choose that over.
Nice.
I would choose that over Freddy Krueger because.
Well, then should you throw Halloween into the mix? Jamie Lee Curtis, early days, man.
The Queen, the Scream Queen.
Yeah. I love that series, but actually my favorite one is the one-off. Is it Halloween 3 where they do the masks? And Mike Myers isn't even in it.
There's like 80 of them.
It's so bad. Yeah, they did. They mixed it up, and I just love it as a one-off because it's these kids who buy these Halloween masks, and there's a chip in it, and it makes your head explode or whatever. And Mike Myers isn't even in it. It's the weirdest Halloween movie ever. I think it's Halloween 3.
Really?
And but no, that series is good. And the last remake they did with Jamie Lee Curtis that just came out like 2 years ago was fantastic.
Was that one Rob Zombie or was Rob Zombie one before?
He was the one before.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But the one that they just did, I think, just called Halloween.
Yeah.
And, Jamie Lee Curtis is in it and has the little basement with the shotgun.
Yeah.
But she does a great job. And
she's coming back for one more.
That movie series is great. And I love the early Friday the 13th. And I actually mixed it up. So it's the one that I'm talking about, the nude scene is in Friday the 13th. Or sorry, Friday the 13th part 2, not 1.
Oh, see, you like the number 2s.
I do. I like the number 2.
You got Aliens.
Alien 2. Alien 2. Friday the 13th 2.
This is episode 2.
This is episode 2, volume 2.
But normally, sequels can suck, but sometimes they're great. Evil Dead 2.
Back to the Future. Duh.
Well, hey, what about
a scary movie?
House of a Thousand Corpses and then Devil's Rejects?
You're talking about Rob Zombie stuff now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know I'm a Rob Zombie fan here, too.
I got you. I don't mind either one of those movies. And I think he's got a real, like, deep-seated appreciation for horror, which is super cool.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of the way that he... the ambiance that he creates with his movies.
Okay.
But I appreciate the fact that he loves it. And like I said, for me... not to get outside of the 80s camp because that's what I grew up around. But outside of that, if I want to see something, unless it's literally fantastic, like we're talking about The Shining, and it's just a movie that's going to be a great movie, it just happens to be a horror movie, then I need old black and white stuff that I really, really love. You know, House on Haunted Hill, House of Wax, you know, going back to the original, you know, movie monsters, the original Frankenstein, Nosferatu, the original Bela Lugosi, Dracula.
I put that on every Halloween, just like at least for background ambiance.
The original Dracula with Bela Lugosi is one of the greatest movies made, period. Doesn't matter that it's a monster movie or horror movie, whatever you want to call it. But all those great movies. And then you get the campy versions of them too. You get The Bride of Frankenstein. You get Abbott and Costello meet blankety, 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 blank. You know, that's done and it just takes the horror genre to a different level. But I have a lot of those on DVD that I love to watch. And the one thing that I like about it is when you showcase those movies to people who've never seen them. If you show somebody like The Creature from the Black Lagoon the first time, it's a little slow. But by the time the movie's over, people are like, all right, I get it. I understand why people dig this. You know, and same thing with some of the campy stuff. There's no one, you've mentioned Killer Clowns from Outer Space a couple times. And I actually had that I'm going to age myself. On VHS.
Nice.
And I watched the VHS so many times I had to throw that VHS tape away and get a new VHS tape.
Nice.
And that's a movie you'll never put that in a tape deck or VCR, DVD player, or stream it or whatever you want to do and show that movie to someone where someone's not going to go, okay, that was
It was fun.
It was
a fun ride.
It's fun.
You know, and it was creative.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is people like look at these. Like, you got to go back to the old films and, like, granted, they may be slow, they may be cheesy, they may be whatever, but without those, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
People need to appreciate, like, this is what, like, paved the way, man. Like, pretty cool.
You just got to stop. You just got to stop remaking them.
Like, Jesus.
And
there's a time and place. Like, there's a stop.
And there's a lot of truth to that because, like, one of the things that you said earlier about IPAs, when we were talking about like Sierra Nevada as a pale ale, like they kind of nailed it. And there's not a whole lot you can do around. But when you look at IPAs, there's never going to be a winner of the IPA contest because there's so many things you can do with that.
Exactly.
And I feel like there's a lot of similarities between IPAs and horror films because when you look at horror, I mean, even just the first three that we mentioned, you've got the traditional, you've got the sci-fi, you've got the campy. You have a million other subgenres of horror that you can talk about. You've got monster. I mean, what camp would you throw the Scream series in? Which I loved Scream.
Scream is amazing, man. The first Scream is...
I'm going to be a fan of this too because I love literature. And you can dog on the Scream franchise all you want. And I won't say that I'm a crazy huge fan. But if you go and you look at the writing, if you look at how well the movie is written, from intertwining certain concepts of horror to... paying homage to different things and just the it's done really well and it's done really intelligently and that's a lot harder to do than most people think. And every time I watch those movies, that's what I think about as well. Okay, doesn't matter if I like this movie, doesn't matter if I think it's scary. It's written really well. And the other thing is it's when you create something that's iconic, no matter what brand it's within, like and we talked about Bud earlier, it doesn't matter if I like Budweiser or not. The two appreciations I have are, and like we talked a little bit off air, is I'll never really make fun of Bud because I can tell you right now, just brewing a 60 barrel batch of something and trying to make it taste just like the 60 barrel batch that you brewed before and just like the 60 barrel batch you're going to brew next time is very hard. So when Budweiser can put out millions of gallons of something and you never hear anybody go, this doesn't taste like the Budweiser I had last year. You never hear that. Man, that's a talent. That's a skill set. It's got value and it's iconic. It's the same thing about the Scream situation is that mask that they created. It's iconic now. It's like Jason's hockey mask.
100%.
It's like the Mike Myers, white mask shield that he has.
Freddy Krueger.
It's like Freddy Krueger's knives. It's iconic, and there's been so many horror movies made millions or thousands anyway, but you can go through on two hands and probably list the things that the average person that you walked up on the street, if you showed it to them, what is this? Yep. And if you hold up the Scream mask to an 8-year-old, they know what it is.
Yep.
If you hold up a Scream mask to a 40-year-old, they know what it is.
Yep.
And that is amazing thing to be able to accomplish. So on the beer side, it's the same thing. We just talked about IPAs. No one ever really owned in the market. It's true, but like take Pliny the Elder from Russian the River. That beer, which was once this legendary, impossible to find, like white whale of a beer, now with Drizzly and all these other things and beer traders in the secondary market, more and more people have had it.
Sure.
And if you even hold up a Pliny bottle, people know what it is. Man, that's powerful. That's hard to do.
They created an exclusive, iconic thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, the funny thing about Pliny is I've heard, so I still have never had a Pliny.
Wow.
I've still never had one, but I've heard a couple of people who finally got one, like over the last couple of years. And one of the things that they say is, I bet this beer was really unique and really cool back in like 2005.
It's like a Yingling.
Right. But now there has been so much transition and transcendence in the IPA market that like now Pliny's kind of like, yeah, it's good, but it's not like, it's not going to blow my mind.
Well,
but it was the OG. Again, it was like kind of like that original, it was one of the first really hoppy, really good, unique IPAs.
He invented the category. There's no double IPA in America without Russian River, without Pliny the Elder.
It's crazy.
And I get what people say. You taste it, and it is a little later, and there's a lot of other stuff on the market, but it's still a great beer, man.
Still a great beer.
It's still a great beer, and I don't think that's going to change. But it's the other thing. Like I talked about the dude who invented the milkshake IPA. It's you start to tell people what you're doing.
Yeah.
You let people know where you're going with it. And one of the original things about Pliny was he was one of the first people to really take wet hops and use them in his IPA. Yeah. So he was literally getting hops that had been harvested like that same day.
Yeah.
And then he had them gotten to him without being frozen, without being shipped, and then it were right into the beer. And you tell people that you're doing that, and some other brewer goes, man, I live right next to a hop farm. Like I don't even have to have this stuff brought to me. I'm practically growing my own stuff. And people start to do it. And now, there are other beers out there that are considered great beers, but I think Pliny's got a niche where, it'll never go away. And, to the point about, kind of the stuff here is when we did Atomic Duck, I'd always said, God, I can't believe when you go to another city, pretty much other cities, even if they're not beer cities, you can walk into that city and you can say, I got to get blank. Because I used to go through Texas all the time.
Yeah.
And I knew when I went to Texas, I wanted a Shinerbach and I wanted a Lone Star.
Yep.
I wanted both those beers, and I knew I could only get them in Texas.
Lone Star is actually just a normal, like everyday, like Pilsner sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's fantastic,
but it's good.
Little shout out. So Rose at Silver Stamp keeps Lone Star on tap at her place, and I literally walk there just so I can drink Lone Star.
We'll have to do that.
It's a great beer.
Okay, so back to the scary stuff, because we got to get back to the scary stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Scary movie with beer, right? What if you watched a movie and like beer was just gone? All of a sudden one day you wake up and it's gone. Not like Prohibition style.
You got
but like
a lot
just
of angry middle-aged
gone.
white guys.
Like, could you imagine?
Well,
insane.
There's beer in your favorite movie, right? I don't know if you ever noticed it.
Yeah, and Back to the Future.
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
The DeLorean is powered by
the
garbage and beer.
And beer.
He dumps the beer in
that
there.
in. Yeah. See? And you need beer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, it would create an insane, it'd be terrible for society.
So that's dystopian horror because you're creating a society that no one wants to live in.
Yeah,
I'm a huge believer in dystopian stuff. I have stacks of novels of pretty much every great dystopian. Amazing. Book is better than the movie, of course.
Although Will Smith was pretty good in it.
He was good.
He had to kill his dog.
Oh, dude, don't even talk about it. Don't talk about it. Although, if Coop was...
All right, so here's the thing, too. Is that a horror movie?
Okay, so I think that's a good question. And then here's the other question. Is that a vampire movie or a zombie movie?
Ooh.
It's a zombie movie.
Is it... wait.
Ooh.
But they get burned by sunlight.
I'm just telling you, I think it's a zombie movie and it's not a horror movie.
Ooh.
They can't go in the sun.
Okay.
And they're fast, which typically... there are zombie movies with fast zombies. 28 Days Later is one of the
the Brad Pitt one. They were pretty fucking quick. They were
World
pretty
War Z.
quick.
They were fast. Walking Dead, obviously very slow zombies.
Yeah.
I would never even be worried about those zombies in The Walking Dead.
You're like, all right, we'll be fine.
Right? But okay, so good question. I would definitely say I Am Legend is a horror film.
Really?
But I think I would call them vampires.
Man, I don't know. I can't see I Am Legend as a horror film.
Me neither.
I can't
really?
see. No.
Were you ever frightened? I mean, I get the tense nature of the setup of the movie, but creating that atmosphere is different from horror, I think.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
I don't think there was horror in that movie.
There is a difference between suspense and horror.
Yes.
And I totally agree with that. I would say what makes something a horror film for me is that there is some sort of absence of reality, of the reality that we're aware of, right? So like Die Hard, clearly not a horror film. Suspense, action film.
Yeah.
Right?
Christmas movie?
Yes, 100%. Because it happens during Christmas.
It does. It doesn't matter what movie. If there's snow and they're celebrating Christmas movie.
It's 100% a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it is.
For sure. So when you suspend any sort of reality, and when there is any sort of supernatural being, and this might come back to bite me, if you guys could provide examples where this is clearly like other movies that
Harry Potter.
No, it's just a terrible movie, not a horror.
Well, hang on a second. There are elements of Harry Potter that are horror. I mean, for sure. You've got the Death Eaters.
But you would characterize Harry Potter as a horror film?
No, okay, so that's fair. No, that's fair though. That's fair.
Yeah.
But I think that all horror movies are suspense movies.
Yes. Okay.
But not all suspense movies are horror movies.
Yes.
And Harry Potter is not a suspense movie.
Wow. I love that you said this because I was going to ask about it because there's some suspense. Like my thing is I love movies that will mess with my mind when I leave the theater. Like
Hereditary.
Dude, no.
Oh, that is
Hereditary. I wasn't a big fan.
I know that movie is the biggest split of all time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I loved Hereditary up until the last 10 minutes. And then
a lot of people
lost
hate the
me.
ending.
Oh, dude, it lost me.
Why did the ending bum so many people out?
Because it was going this totally different way, and then all of a sudden it was like a cult thing in a freaking treehouse. Like it was just it just took a totally different turn.
But it was building towards that. I didn't feel like it was I didn't feel like it was a 90-degree turn. I felt like it was just,
they were going that way with the god of what do you call it? Turmoil or whatever.
You guys are wrong.
That's what they were going for. But I mean, like a movie that came out recently, like The Witch, is
yes,
a fantastic movie.
Yes. Slow
but
burn.
Good. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It was good. The Village. What do you think of The Village? I'm nice.
I thought it was okay. I can tell you this: the last time I physically, and I tell people this all the time. Rarely ever, because I love the movies and I go often and I watch a lot of home horror, obviously. But I think the last time I really went to a theater and I was scared in the theater.
Paranormal Activity.
No.
Oh.
Blair Witch Project.
Ooh.
Really?
Yes. Okay, so same kind of level, though.
Yeah.
Blair Witch Project and
Paranormal
Paranormal
you want to know
Activity.
why? What was weird and perfect about me with the Blair Witch Project is...
You were going camping the next weekend?
No. I went to the wrong movie.
Oh, what?
Yes. I did not know.
Were you going to like a Disney movie?
No,
or something
I bought a ticket for a different movie and I walked into the wrong theaters.
Whoa, dude.
And I sat.
But you never left?
No, I never left. So I sat down and like 10 minutes into it, I'm like, what freaking movie is this? What is going on? And I didn't intend to go see the Blair Witch Project.
That's hilarious.
And made it even better because I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about it. No previews. I didn't go with the intention of seeing the Blair Witch Project. I just thought I was watching a poorly shot movie.
You're probably thinking it's like a trailer for something.
I'm like, no wonder I didn't want to go to this movie. This movie's garbage.
Hilarious.
And 20 minutes into it, I'm like, well, I've got to just stay.
Yeah.
And it was the last time I was probably physically scared in a movie theater.
Really?
See, dude, and they set a precedent, man. Paranormal Activity is the one film I will say that mentally messed me up even to this day.
Well, do you know why that movie messed you up so bad?
Why?
It's because you have this intense fear of
I do.
bedtime
Already,
of the dark, of sleeping.
Yep.
And half of that movie is watching people sleep and getting blankets dragged off of them.
Yeah,
and,
100%.
It's perfect. It is your perfect storm.
It's my perfect storm.
I mean, it was you. So like for Blair Witch Project, I was relatively unimpressed by that movie until the final, basically like 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That seeing that chick standing in the corner was like, whoa, that was creepy.
No.
And then it just ends.
Yeah. And then it's just over.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the Blair Witch, that's not a spoiler because that was like 15 years ago.
Yep.
So you should have seen it by now.
And we saved you from the sleepaway camp spoiler, so we're being very polite.
That's right. The last movie that kept me up all night was, believe it or not, The Sixth Sense.
Great movie.
That's amazing, man. That was probably M. Night Shyamalan's best movie. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And I was 11.
Sometimes your opus is the first thing you do. You don't get to pick.
Well, to be fair, the first thing he did was Stuart Little.
That was the first thing?
That was the first major project that he worked on.
He wrote that, right?
Well, he was a co-writer on it.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah.
Which is just
wild
hilarious.
to see the difference. Yeah.
Now, The Sixth Sense is a fantastic movie. And like I said, he should write a letter of thank you to Sleepaway Camp.
There you go.
Because
we got to watch that. We got to watch that. Man.
We can watch it together. We can do it like we did the other night. You know, Derek and I hold hands. We put on some PJs.
That's perfect.
Pop some popcorn.
We do pajama party.
You can watch Pretty in Pink right after.
Well, exactly. We've got to calm down after the show.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's good.
But those movies are great. You want me to talk about the beer before you spill it all?
Yeah.
No. Hey, don't talk. It's an accident. I try and keep it away from my computer, but then
Derek party fouled so hard right now. This is a very valuable beer.
It wasn't a lot, but even a little bit is a lot.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah.
So what I did, guys, is I brought them so we make a beer called Honey Dip Stout, which is one of our core 4 products. It's one of the first things we came up with. I referenced a little bit earlier talking in the other episode about how we brewed it 40-something times before we got it right. So we took that exact same beer and we do a double barrel version. So we take it and we split it between 2 different types of barrels. Generally, it's 1 bourbon barrel, 1 rye barrel, and then we blend them back together and we put out a beer called Double Barrel Honey Dip Stout. So one of the highest rated beers ever brewed in the state of Nevada. I think it's got like a 4.3 something on Untapped.
Whoa.
Like it's up there. We also submitted it to the National Honey Board Beer Competition for a couple of years, and it took multiple gold medals in the best honey beer category.
Boom.
So it's one of the best honey beers made in the country, and it's a world class imperial stout. So we do this. It's one of the few beers that we bottle and put out in 22-ounce bombers. We release it on Valentine's Day every year.
Is there a special meaning for that?
Yeah, what's the reason for that?
Yeah, just what I wanted to do is same thing. So I knew we had a great beer, and it was really hard to get it out to people. You know, we can't put this in a can at the time. You know, we're a smaller brewery. We're putting it in 22-ounce bottles, which makes it kind of expensive. And I really wanted to expose the product to people. And this is before we had a tap room.
Yep.
So there's a brewery in North Carolina called Foothills, and they make a really good dark beer called Sexual Chocolate.
Nice.
And
good name.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's great. And they got into the habit of releasing it on Valentine's Day. And it created this little kind of movement. So I was like, hey, that's a good idea. You know, this is going to come out in a 22-ounce bottle, which means it's shareable.
Yeah.
It's got kind of a chocolatey.
Well, it depends on what kind of drinker you are.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm telling you right now, you don't want to pound a 22-ounce bottle of that. It'll get you.
No.
So I you know, it's shareable. It's a cool release date. You know, it's got kind of a chocolatey coffee note to it. So it kind of plays to that season. Let's release it on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of the winter, unquote, winter here in Las Vegas when we only have a couple months where it's cooler, and a big beer like this is going to play even better.
Yep.
So it fit and just kind of worked out. So we've kept that as the release date ever since, and you know, kind of build some momentum for it. But it's definitely one of the beers that we make that people go out of their way to seek. And we periodically pop it on and off tap at the brewery, which is pretty amazing because it's great on draft as well. But what I brought you guys is actually, like I said, one of the few that was bottled in 2018 before the 2019 version went out. So this has been resting for a while, and you know, we've been drinking it, and it's definitely got a booze factor to it.
Oh yeah.
You can taste it. It's definitely.
Do you think it's gone up?
No, it's. I mean, it might. The alcohol might be more pronounced because some of the other flavors have fallen back a little bit as it ages.
Yeah.
So it's probably boozier tasting than it was when I first bottled it. But the alcohol is going to remain about the same.
But it's very smooth.
Yeah.
Very smooth.
Thank you. And it's
This poor napkin has some of it.
And you should just save that napkin.
Yeah.
Just save it. Well, one time Derek and I did have a guest come on. They brought a Dogfish Head 90 minute. Was it a 90 or a 120?
120.
120. One that they had been aging for 2 years.
I think
and
2.
One that they had just bought that day. And we actually did a blindfolded taste test of the difference of the two. And it was incredible to taste the difference. Significant difference, just those 2 years. And so, I mean, I haven't had the double recently, but this is very smooth. And I wonder just how different this would taste than what the one today is.
Yeah, I think the one we put on for 2021, what you'll probably notice is it'd be a little more viscous because it's going to have more carbonation. Okay. So it would taste a little thicker. The flavors would carry around to more parts of your mouth from the carbonation. Yeah. It would probably be less alcohol forward. And but it wouldn't probably drink as smoothly because it hadn't had a chance to round out.
Sure.
It'd be a little fresher. And when you put stuff in a barrel, we age it for about a year, then we blend them and we bottle them. But those barrel notes, the tannins, the stuff that you pick up from the barrel can be very vibrant at first. Yep. But when they round out as they mellow and age, a lot of people prefer that because it becomes more delicate. And other people like it. They want that upfront tannin note. They want to know, this just came out of the barrel and they want to taste it. Where a beer like this is, it's been in a barrel because of the carbonation level and kind of the flavor. But if I didn't tell you and you weren't a beer fan, you might not know. If you go down and you get our 2021 Double Barrel Honey Dip on tap, the minute that you drink it, it's been in a barrel. Yeah. Like you can taste it. Yep. There's almost an oak character to it. And, that's different. So stuff like this is something you pop open like a bottle of wine. You can let it sit for several years and you can drink it and share it with friends. It's great with food. And as a standalone, if you just want to strap on a buzz while watching Sleepaway Camp, a 22-ounce bottle of this will definitely do it.
That's
or Killer
all
Clouds
of that
from Outer
sounds
Space.
Fantastic.
It does. It does.
Like we feel kind of blessed to be able to drink this stuff with you, dude.
Yeah,
the guy who made it, created it, did its thing. It's insane.
Yeah,
so
it's cool.
Thank you very much.
I mean, from the garage to the whatever.
Yeah.
We started from the garage, now we here.
Yeah.
And that's what you guys have done.
Is that a DMX quote?
No. But, dude, Manos, seriously, this has been incredible, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
First of all, you brought some incredible beers.
Yep.
Just really incredible beers. But actually, what's even more important is you brought incredible stories. And dude, you taught us a lot about Vegas beer and the scene that you guys are working in. I couldn't be happier or more excited about the stuff that's going on in Beer Street? What's the
Brewery Row?
Brewery Row. Thank you. Gosh, I could not be more excited about that. That is going to be so cool, man. Yep. Well, it already is so cool. I mean, like I said, we already did a beer crawl down there. But
no more Vikings blood.
You're always welcome here. Anytime. And by the way, I just wanted to mention too, your can art has been so fantastic. I just want to give you a shout out because I know you guys have done some incredible work, so much so that even other brewers are now reaching out to you for ideas and things like that. So well done, guys.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. And once again, thank you guys for having me on. I love to support people who love to support craft, man, and I love this medium. I'm a big believer in podcasts and radio and digital media to this degree, and I wish y'all all the success in the world, man. Anything I can help, just let me know.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. And like I said, you're always welcome back. Thank you for being our first 2-volume guest.
This is crazy, dude.
Derek, how cool is this, man?
It's amazing.
You got more editing work to do this time.
You know what? For this, I'm totally fine with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Manos, thanks again. Much appreciated.
Yes.
It's my pleasure, and anyone who knows me won't be surprised that I did a 2-version episode.
Now it's going to be a 1 version.
Yeah. I'm that guy that I'll give a speech at my own funeral.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Derek, as always, love you, buddy, and we'll be seeing you.